Okay, as you know, we asked the member displays that how do you use your glass? All of us know we put it on a shelf, we display it, we put out the candles. Some of us, as you know from your registration signed up, we asked that you, if people could bring in ideas of how do you use your glass. Most of us display it on a shelf, we put it on a table, we may bring out candlesticks and bowls and that sort of thing. But some people really have unique situations that they set up. They serve a whole meal using all or part of their stretch glass. So we do have some of those today. Some of those we have brought special pieces, things that they have brought, have had picked up of course, in the last year, some unique things. I know that Manofsky's got a bowl that went with candlesticks that they had. And so it will go down, and if Jonathan, if you'll come up first and discuss your display, why we'll start here.
I'm Jonathan.
You want this one for them to hear, or are you going to talk loud?
I'll just talk loud.
Okay.
So I'm Jonathan Furman, for anyone who hasn't met me yet. I've been a member of Stretch Glass Society for a couple years now. This is the first time I've made it down to convention. And I have a collection of stretch glass. I collect Fenton, Cambridge, Fostoria, Depression. I have a little bit of everything. But whatever I use, my policy is that if I buy it, it has to be a functional item that I'm going to use. So I don't have anything that's reserved for display only. Everything is game to be used at a dinner party or to serve something out of. So I tend to do more traditional table settings when I have people over. But since this was supposed to be stretch glass for the 21st century, I decided to go a little bit more modern. And kind of what inspired me is that I'm a member and past president of the Michigan Depression Glass Society, and we have a monthly meeting in the Detroit area. And about maybe 2 years ago, a member presented their collection of pink Windsor diamond, which is a depression glass pattern, and she put it all on bamboo placemats. And I thought that was just a really unique, innovative idea, and I would never have thought to do something like that. I'm much more of a traditionalist with, normal table linen and whatnot. So when I saw the theme for this, I thought, well, that would be kind of fun to do. So I found these bamboo placemats at a store in New York, and that was kind of my jumping off theme for this kind of Japanese-inspired table. So I've got, just a variety of kind of yellow and green stretch glass in here, with the centerpiece and everything mixed in here. So just very functional items that you can use between the plates, the sherbets, the glasses. Again, all stuff that I would use when I was hosting a dinner party. And I have to say, as a newer collector and a younger collector who's often on a budget when coming to things, I always appreciate a good deal. So I think actually kind of what started, probably some of the first tableware I got in stretch glass was actually these sherbets. I was in San Diego for a marketing conference, and I went to the Goodwill there one day, and I got 6 sherbets for $3. So that was some of my first tableware that I got. And then the other really good deal I got on this table was this lovely jade stretch vase, and I picked that up about a year ago at the Salvation Army. I paid $2.99, so big splurge, but it kind of balances out some of the other expenses of the candlesticks and other things that I bought. But like I said, I love using my dishes. Obviously, I try to. My friend Jennifer and I always joke around about having scratch-free dinners. So in this instance, we have chopsticks. We're having maybe Chinese food tonight, but no steaks are being served off of this stuff. So any questions? Yeah.
Oh, we're good. Can everybody hear me? Yeah. Our collection, as I started to say, we collected what we liked, and we didn't go into too much of wanting to get every piece of a certain pattern or things like that. What we collected for was color and variety. And so what you see here on our table is pretty much the way you would see it in our home if you went in. In fact, these 2 vases and these 2 candlesticks are prominently right on top of our china closet, and they're set out exactly the way they appear. So when Dave and Cal said, how do you use it? Well, this is the way we use it. And unlike Jonathan, we don't use it utility-wise. We did that one time. At one time, we had 6 Northwood topaz handled small bowls, cereal bowls. And we didn't think that they were that valuable, so we fed our cats with them. And what happened was, as cats would do, they like to play with their food, so they would eat some and then they would paw at the bowl and eventually they'd flip it over. Well, all of the bowls got broken. And so we thought, well, we'll just go out and get some more. We haven't found one since. So a little word to the wise, don't let your cats around your stretch class. This bowl here is one that I wanted to bring to your attention. Dave, Lancaster? This is a Lancaster ball that we thought was russet. How many people think that looks like russet across the room? Yeah. Yeah, we ran for it. And I thought, well, I'm going to have a bowl that Dave doesn't have, and I'll be able to tempt him with it. When we got there, we realized that it wasn't russet. In fact, it's actually, what would you call it, Dave? Lime green?
Yeah, it's got a greenish tint.
Yeah.
To the glass.
Greenish tint. It doesn't fluoresce, so there's no uranium to speak of. It's got a lot of panels, more panels than it should. But Dave has assured me that it's a Lancaster bowl, but I haven't seen a Lancaster bowl in this color before. So,
They're all plain marigold as far as I
yeah, so we're going to start a collection of Lancaster bowls in this color. And this is it. My wife had this beautiful grape holder. They make these, they're contemporary, you can find them today. We found this in a thrift store, and with our good luck, it just happened to fit perfectly, so that's the way it's displayed at our house. One of the other things that we got, and I'm going to gloat over this a little bit as my prized possession right now. A couple years ago, I described how I got these, and there was a point of contention that there was a guy between me and my candlesticks when I got them. That was his unfortunate demise. My wife says that I punched the guy. I didn't punch him. I just kind of pushed him aside to get to these. And anyway, the police report says that I was totally without guilt. So at some point in time, we decided we had to finish it. We tried once and got a bowl that we thought was what we wanted, and found out that it was flame and not mustard. So as you can see, we did find the mustard bowl that goes with these candlesticks. It is from the Fenton Museum, has the Fenton Museum number on the back. It is the true mustard with the bright red. And I would like to thank Cal for patiently waiting until this bowl came up to bid on it for us. When we were at the auction, we couldn't stay. We had a time crunch and we had to leave. So I'm driving down the road and Cal was trying to talk to me on the cell phone. I had to pull off the road because I was afraid I would crash. I kept yelling at Cal, bid again, Cal, bid again. And he said, we're top bidder. I said, bid again anyway. And as luck would have it, we managed to get it. George Fenton was very gracious enough to stand and hold the bowl while we held the candlesticks and we took a picture. About 20 years ago, we had that same picture taken with the Little Fish's chop plate in marigold, which was the only one known. And my wife and I had to stand beside Frank and George, and in that picture we both stood on our tiptoes as tall as we could get so that we could be framed in the picture. Anyway, when we took this picture today, we stood the same way. So we have now pictures 20 years apart with different parts of our collection. The rest of it is just pretty much glass that we have. We have these red Fenton candlesticks with the gold etch on the bottom, which are one of our prized possessions. A lot of the stuff that we collect isn't expensive or elaborate, but it's simple and pretty.
The base.
Oh, the white base, yeah. Naturally, our Fenton candlesticks are beside our imperial bowl. That's the way you do it, right? The base, Northwood? Dave? Fenton base? This is the one that has the I don't know whether it's acid etch or a painted surface, some kind of an enamel surface on there. It's a clear glass, and then it has this enameled white, frosty white texture. It's the only one I've seen. I picked it up and we put it under our imperial bowl to give it some contrast. But that's what we do. We mix and match the things. The other pieces that we brought were the etched grape. We have the jug. We have the very small tumbler, which is very hard to find. And then we have Sandy's milkshake holder. We left the straw in it. We did wash it. But this is what she drinks her milkshakes out of. So there is a use for these vases. And the other one was the imperial, we call her umbrella. Slightly different. Dave told me that this one is kind of not flat and kind of not cupped up, so it's another one of those rare but so what type things. And the only other thing I have on here is this, and I was hoping that one of you would know what this is, because we don't. We've had it for about 8 years and we can't figure out what it is. It has a blue applied rim, has a blue twisted stem. The actual sherbet is made in 3 different pieces. It's iridized. It has panel optic on the plate. The plate is polished off on the bottom. And my best guess is that it's Steuben. It could be Durand.
Italian.
Italian?
Yeah, I had Vaseline ones very similar to that I sold 10 years ago, and they were Venetian. And Steuben copied that look. So there are pieces very similar, but they were making, in the Murano area, they were making a number of them with on different colors. But very much, when I saw them on the table there, I was like, oh wow, those are, and I'm pretty sure I would say Italian, definitely.
I'm hoping that when Tom Burns gets here, he can confirm your analysis and let us know who made them.
Quality and very high end. It was very high end glass at the time too.
Yeah. Yeah, we found these in a junk shop, and the person had $7 on the set. So we decided we had to get it.
Oh, yeah.
We couldn't let the orphans sit there. And that's about it. It's about all we have, all we brought. Thank you.
All right. We also display our glass. We do use some pieces for serving and some pieces daily for drinking wine glasses, and milk and whatnot, but they're non-iridized for the most part. So the rest of it's just collection. The first 2 pieces I'm going to show are Imperial Jewels that came from the Bill Crawl collection, the auction in March, I believe it was. And these were kind of hidden under a red plate, and they were in a lot of 5 pieces, and the other 3 pieces were totally unrelated to what this was. And they're 2 of the most striking color-wise pieces of Imperial Jewels I've ever seen. If any of you are listening to hear me listen to me talk about Imperial Jewels before, I often talk about how close Pearl Ruby and Pearl Green is, and how hard they are to tell apart sometimes, and how Pearl Green is always called Pearl Ruby by almost everybody. Well, anyway, I don't know what color to call these. I believe that the factory either started out to make Pearl Ruby or perhaps Pearl Green, but I don't know what to call them today. They're just brilliantly colored pieces of glass. They've got a lot of orange, a lot of gold in them. A number 35 card receiver, and they also call this a card receiver. That's a number 41, a couple inches bigger. Here I have a New Art shade by Imperial. This is also Pearl Green. I had just not seen this particular shade in a pearl green before. Saw it in the white and the pearl ruby. And I think this came from a Tom Burns auction. Paid entirely too much for it. Another piece of Imperial Jewels. This is a #1 vase, which in itself is a pretty common vase to find. The basic vase is a pearl amethyst, and but it has opalescence. It has an opalescent top edge, and there you can see opalescence in the base. It's only one of 3 pieces that I know of in Imperial Jewels that has any opalescence to it. I own one other, and Tom Manaski owns one also, different styles. This is a number 727 bowl by Imperial, pink stretch with the gold decoration that I don't think I've seen this particular decoration on this bowl before. I think Dave mentioned it, that he hadn't seen it at least on a server. And last but not least is an Imperial pin tray. Sometimes just called a paperweight, a pin tray, a paperclip tray. It was made by Imperial with the 3 Imperial logos on it, New Art, New Cut, and the Imperial Cross or Iron Cross Imperial. And just says Imperial Art Glass on the front and some other Imperial Glass Company on the other side. The speculation is that it was made by Imperial and given as gifts to employees for Christmas. I've heard it was for gifts to salesmen. I've speculated that perhaps it was gifts to good customers. In any event, I think it was made to be a giveaway by the company. I don't think they would have sold too many of these for decorative purposes. But the significance here is up to this point, I'd only seen these pin trays in pearl amethyst or the dark amethyst color. And this gentleman posted this on the Imperial Facebook page one day. It was Carnival Week, and the people were encouraged to put their carnival up. And he posted this and said, "This is my only piece of carnival, Imperial Carnival." And I said, "Well, that's a different color." So I private messaged him, we emailed, I arranged, this was maybe in June of last year, I arranged to go see his collection with my wife. He lives in Pottsville, Pennsylvania. We were up that way. And I said I'd love to come by and see it. And I really just wanted to identify the color because I thought it was pearl green, which I've declared it pearl green rather than pearl ruby. And he just made, I never thought I would walk away with it, but he made a great offer. So that's it.
I'll start with this marigold butterfly bowl. I found this at Williamtown's Mall this morning, and I didn't see it yesterday. I was in too big of a hurry, but it's only maybe the 3rd one I found. It's marigold stretch. It was definitely a sample. This was not in a regular line. Very pretty. Then I want to start out by saying, years ago when I first started collecting carnival glass, I learned right off, and you look back there, what we'll see in the banquet tonight, iridescence and quality of color can make a big difference in price. I mean, it can mean the difference between a $100 item or a $1,000 item. And, you know, it can make a big difference. Unfortunately, I learned the hard way that rule doesn't generally apply to stretch glass. A lot of stretch glass people, if it's got stretch on it, if it's super iridescence, it just doesn't make that much difference in price. And it also doesn't necessarily apply to contemporary. But the reason I mention this is because these were made in 2005, so I waited 13 years to find one of these that I really, really, really liked. I must have looked at 100 of them and I just didn't really think they were all that good, but this one is super all the way around. So I did go ahead and get this one, both in stretch and the quality of the iridescence. This is the only one of these.
That's the first.
Huh?
And the reason why is that's the first. Notice where it's sitting.
Where it's sitting.
It's sitting on the rim rather than on the
Okay.
ring in the bottom.
So they made this one right.
Yeah, that was a first from the factory.
Oh, okay. Okay. This spruce green, I've seen the color, but I'd never seen it with on a holly plate with stretch iridescence. Gary said that he had one, and I think Tom Minosky said that he has one of 3 red stretch holly plates, but they didn't make very many holly plates with the stretch iridescence. Really pretty. I snuck this one out of a Thomas Burns auction a couple of months ago, and it's the only large candy dish that I have heard of in red. There's a few small of the smaller size, but anyway, very pretty. And like I said, Tom didn't advertise it to the stretch people, so I kind of snuck that one away. But anyway, we'll see. Green, olive green. This is U.S. glass, so it wouldn't be called russet, but this is one of my favorite colors. And I've got the large one, and this is a rare color for U.S. glass, but I had never seen this small comport in this color, so I feel like it's fairly rare. This I bought a week ago in Jefferson City, Missouri, and it turns out the consensus seems to be this Westmoreland. You can see it's got a crackle iridescence, and I didn't think it was old, but apparently it is old. And it's got a white crackle iridescence, very pretty, and apparently pretty rare. This I thought was very pretty, from Imperial Mold, thumbprint, and what's it called? Thumbprint and something. Anyway, signed George Fenton in '99, and they did a very good job on the wisteria. I thought it was very pretty. But, and let's see. This does have some iridescence to it, and it's at least it's related to the Pomona. But it's got the black base and the white, and then the decoration on the inside. I thought it was very pretty. So U.S. glass comport. And I guess that's it.
Okay. Thank you. I'm Bob Hinkle, the Vice President of the Stretch Glass Society, and this is one of my favorite parts because I like to exhibit. And I got a lot of that training through the garden club work that I have. And I would call what the table that you have seen an exhibition table, as I would the one with Frankie. And then I would call mine a functional table because it actually does involve the use of food, and you even have the menu plan, and it shows how it's served, and I'll explain that in just a minute. This table, I centered around the candy dishes, which is one thing I love to collect, and then also a collection that I have of Gibson girls. I didn't bring all of the Gibson girls because I really wanted the display to focus on the stretch. But Charles Dana Gibson, who actually didn't die until 1947, who became the editor and then later the owner of Life magazine, he was an artist, and he created he created the Gibson girl, which was the epitome of womanhood about the turn of the century. She got us through World War I, and so therefore she is in the period that we have stretch glass. The center of the table is the bride, and that was the Gibson girl ideal. She was to marry, but the one key was she was to marry well, and then she wasn't able to work anymore. Even state laws, you could not teach school once you were married. You had to give the job up. Here is a secretary or stenographer, an actress. That was the one thing that possibly could go along further, but generally when the Gibson girl married, her next approach was motherhood. She would have tea with her relatives or neighbors, and she could play golf or she could be athletic, but she was completely, dressed to the nines when she hit the golf course. One thing that was interesting is she could wear swimsuits, short swimsuits. The difference being that she had to have a cabana that would actually back up into the water, and she would go into the water through the cabana and then get back into the cabana, but she was not, she didn't want to. She was not permitted to stroll the beach in her swimsuit. She'd have to dress in the cabana, and then she could stroll along the boardwalk. But I think that's very interesting. Stretch glass was the poor man's Tiffany. It was very nice quality of glass. You're able to heat with it. I mean, you're able to put hot things in it, cold things in it. It wasn't like cut glass, which was very useless, my grandmother said, who was married in 1910, as far as practicality. But stretch glass is a wonderful variety of colors, and that's why I like to be eclectic with the candy dishes. And I have two things to tell you that I did with them. One was that we had seed money from the church, and we were supposed to see how many times we could multiply the seed money. So of course I like glass because I don't like to polish silver, and I've got that too, but I don't use as much of it. And I did have 40 iced beverage spoons, the long iced teaspoons, to my grandmother's silver. She was the very first Virginia bride to adopt Fairfax as her pattern, and she had to go all the way to Philadelphia with her mother to complete the set. So I had 40 of the iced beverages spoons. So I told the church that I was going to help. It was for the food bank, and I told the church that I was going to have 40 people in, and it was going to be a dinner, and it was going to be in to help the poor. It was going to be meatless. So they came. I was able to get 40 people. They came. So that meant I raised $1,000 for the food bank. And so what I did is, that I reported the money on, is I boiled white potatoes, and then I boiled sweet potatoes and got rid of the peelings. And so everybody got a candy dish, and if you got a smaller one, you could certainly come back. And you got, with a dipper, you put mashed potatoes in it. And then you had one round table, and it had chives and cheese and all that in candy dishes. But I didn't put any meat. Normally I'd put bacon or ham, but I just put the accoutrements for them to eat their potato any way they wanted to. Then they got, the best thing was the chatter. Then the next thing they got was another candy dish, and then they got sweet potatoes. And on that round table, there was sugar, and there was cinnamon, and there were raisins, and so forth and so on, and peanuts if you wanted to. And it was kind of a whole lot of fun. And like I said, I raised the money. And the other thing I like to use the candy dishes for are, you make your own ice cream sundae. They're more like today's kinds of things. And of course you get ice cream and the banana and strawberry syrup and everything else. And you can make your, and here again I use the iced beverage spoons, but that makes a nice use of the candy dish. So as what I've done is I put out the different candy dishes, and to show how they can be used in every room in the house. They can be used in the bathroom to hold Band-Aids or Q-tips. They can be, and you can use the top if you want to keep the Q-tips, sanitary. They can be used at your desk to hold rubber bands or paper clips. They can hold the artificial sweetener. They can be used in the bathroom for your manicure set or your hairspray, Band-Aids, drinking straws, and even when you garden, you can put your clippers so they're always in clear view and you know where they are. And God forbid that we ever should use them as candy dishes, but that's also a possibility. So please help yourself to the candy that's out here in the front, and when you go home, maybe you'll enjoy your stretch just a little bit more. I think that's the beauty of it, is in the use of it. Occasionally I do break a piece, and there are some that are behind not locked, but behind glass doors, but they're just as apt to get broken when I clean it as they are if I put it on the table to enjoy it. Okay, Jeff Hodges is not with us, and Jeff always had a wonderful dinner display, so I decided I would also do a dinner using the stretch glass to show how I like to blend stretch glass and also the new and the old stretch glass, as well as contemporary glassware and even glass that's much, much older than stretch glass. The first glass I ever collected were goblets, and I probably have between 200-300 goblets and love them. So that way I get to drink out of a different goblet every day, and if somebody breaks one, it gives me the excitement of looking for that particular one again, and I don't have sets of anything in particular. So they haven't broken up a set, and they're not embarrassed by breaking one. I have chosen to use this wonderful Fenton piece, which I have just recently come on, and I have decided to put tomatoes in it because it's a spaghetti dinner. And then I use perfectly plain white china that came from Walmart, but it's heavy, and I use it as a charger, and that picks up the white of the tablecloth that's still exposed. I found this grand silverware, and you can't have any because it's all gone, but it's from Walmart too. But it looks like stretch glass. It's iridescent, stainless. And then I used different color of contemporary wines, and I have the gold, which picks up the cloth, and then the purple, and then the green, and then the burgundy. This is a contemporary piece of stretch that came from the auction, and it's really, really heavy. There's one on the table, that was the one extra one, and this I would put my spaghetti in and the sauce. And because everybody wants salt free, I use my little salts that are the Fenton Celeste Blue for the Parmesan cheese, and all you have to do is to dump it on top of the spaghetti, and that way I don't put that shaker on the table that comes, you know, from the store and has writing on it. You can't have that on the table. No, indeed. And then I use, if you look at these, the shimmer picks up a lot of green, and so I was able to use the Imperial green ice, which I think looks nice, and that's for your salad and your garlic bread. And then I finished off with one of my newest purchases, which are the Northwood spindle sticks, which goes right in with the Fenton color. You hardly notice a difference. And then going back to the first glass that I ever collected, these of course are pressed goblets, early pressed goblets that we enjoy using. So this belongs at present to Tim. He's researching what it is, and people were talking about it and commenting. They didn't think it was particularly pretty, and I think it's one of the most beautiful bowls I've saw. I'd like to know what it is. I'd like to know if it's going to be able to be used, because that's what I would put the pasta in, which would be hot. And I'm scared to do it until I know what I've got. So that's my table, and I use stretch glass everywhere in the house, but in particular in the dining room, and I'd repurpose what I have and just enjoy using it for everyday wow. And the more you use it, the more that you enjoy it. I do not put it in the dishwasher. I do wash it by hand, but I have to do that with so much of the china that we have anyway because of the gold, and also the gold that it's on some of the early goblets and so forth. You don't want to lose that. And if I could find a restoration process that I could have that fixed, that would be wonderful on some of that beautiful the gold on the goblets. All right, are there any questions about what you see? I can answer them in front of everybody, or you can pull me to the side and ask later. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Zach. I've been addicted to collecting glass since I was 16, and I've collected all kinds of different glass. Wasn't really into Stretch until a few years ago, and I lucked out and I went to a show before Joanne did, and there was a dealer there, and he had 10 saucers and 5 coffee cups and a creamer and a candlestick in Vaseline Stretch, Topaz Stretch. And he wanted $55 for all of it. And I was like, oh, I've got to get that. And I had a couple pieces of Stretch, but not much. And I came up with this idea. First, I was going to do satin. I had a full collection of Vaseline satin, and I was going to do a dining room with it with black lights. And when I got the coffee cups, I knew how hard those were to get anyways, and I was like, nope, it's got to be Stretch. So it's been about 6 years now that I've been collecting Stretch. And every Halloween, every October, I do Frankenstein's dinner party in my dining room. And the main table is all Stretch, and then there's all Vaseline around, and I have black lights, and that's the only light in the dining room. And we have a couple parties, and we have friends over, and people are just amazed by the glow and the color of it, and you know, they have no idea what it is, so I get to explain it to them, and it's very cool, and it's a lot of fun. I found that, you know, finding, I don't know, I've been very lucky because I found a lot of good pieces, very reasonable, and in a short amount of time. But it's something that, you know, you just keep looking, and it comes to you. It seems like it finds you, and that's what it's been with me. I made Frankenstein. He's, like I said, he sits in my dining room. He's in the basement for most of the year, and then he sits in my dining room for Halloween. And it's fun. And now with black lights, I used to use fluorescent black lights, and the effect was good, but now the LEDs are coming out, and they've come way down in price, and you can see how the glass just reacts to those LED lights. And it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. So I guess that's it.